Hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to day 4 of how to create a sustainable mindfulness practice. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you are finding these sessions enlightening and inspiring. I see you all commenting and doing your homework, and I think that is wonderful. So starting with quick couple of announcements. Remember that everything that you need is posted inside of the Facebook group in the units tab, all of the replays, etc. Don't forget to sign up for our special workshop, How to Manifest Your Heart's Desire, this Saturday, January 30th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's going to go for 3 hours. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and it's only $47, and it's your best opportunity to meet me in person and just get some private, customized, holistic life coaching. So all the other announcements, I think we pretty much have the hang of this by now. So I'm just going to jump right in. As a reminder, the first day we talked about sacred space and how to set it up and the importance of a sacred time for your practice and a sacred space for your practice. Day 2, we talked about the mind and the functions of the mind. Hi, Deborah. Day 3, we talked about emotions yesterday, and today we are talking about what is the right practice for you, and I'm going to go through a lot of information here, so make sure that you have your notepad ready. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the obstacles and about how do you know if you're making progress on a spiritual practice. As a reminder, you have 2 choices to comment. You can either give StreamYard permission, or when you type, you can just say your name at the end. Somebody just said, hi, Sarah, and I don't know who you are, but hello to you too. Because this StreamYard service only allows me to see like the comment. It doesn't give me the name of the person because I'm streaming into 3 different channels all at once. Okay, so with all of that said, the first thing that I want to address is a couple of questions that came on in the group the other day. One was very insightful, and I am sorry, I do not remember who posted the question, but it's a question that always comes up, and I always wait to see who's going to ask this question, because then it tells me you're actually listening and you're thinking and you're doing some introspection. So the question was this: I had said there is 4 functions of the mind: memory, imagination, understanding, and then misunderstanding. And then one of you said, but wait a minute. How do I know if I'm misunderstanding? Like, I'm not going to know I'm misunderstanding right now. I'm only going to know if I misunderstood later when I gain more understanding or correct understanding, or I see things from a different perspective. And I'm like, bingo, that is exactly the point. But there is clues as of when you might have misunderstood something. And that is, number 1, if your emotions are going bananas, if you are angry, if you're upset, if you're sad, if you are overwhelmed, if you're crying, if you must have misunderstood something, either within you or something that somebody did, or their intentions, or you're misunderstanding really the purpose of life and you're blaming other people instead of looking within and say, how did I get myself into the situation? Because I got news for you. If you are having negative interactions with people at home and at work, then you are in some way, consciously or unconsciously, participating into creating that situation. And I have a whole video that I just did on this, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole right now, but it's called What Does Awakening Feel Like? And what to do when you're awake. And I talk a lot about that, about how we're always creating consciously or we're creating unconsciously, how we're here to manifest and to heal. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the workshop on Saturday. So listen, guys, I have 20 years of experience practicing everything under the sun and 10 years teaching. So I am incredibly systematic in the way that I teach, because I want to make sure that you guys make progress and that you enjoy the process and that it's very practical and tangible and achievable. And that's what makes me different from any other teacher out there. The fact that I have a point. I know that I ramble a lot, but I do have a point. So my point was, if you've misunderstood, you have a lot of emotions flowing through you. And the fact that that's happening, that tells you that you have misunderstood something. And what you might have misunderstood is the situation and what you could have done, should have done, or should be doing in that situation. And a lot of the times, the reason that you might be misunderstanding because you're busy blaming something or someone else for your experience instead of taking responsibility and looking at what's happening from a spiritual perspective and saying, what can I do? What can I change? What action, what discussion do I need to have in order to experience something different? That is the difference between a spiritual being and a worldly being, okay? A worldly being just gets caught up in the drama and spends a lot of time trying to fix things externally. A spiritual human goes in and says, okay, what do I need to learn here? And you begin to learn from your experiences and you do that introspection. That will then inevitably clear the misunderstanding. And a lot of the times, the reason you need a teacher is because you're in your own darn bubble and you literally don't see past your own nose and your perception is all you've got. And it's not until somebody goes, open your eyes and look at this differently, that you go, now I see what they're doing. I see what I need to do. I see how to fix it. And then when you do that, now you have correct understanding, and that will inevitably bring you peace and clarity and contentment, and then there's no more spinning. So a lot of the times, if you're sitting in meditation and you're trying to practice and your mind won't stop and you don't like this, what you see and what you feel when you sit, it's probably because you're suffering from misunderstanding, which is one of the reasons I encourage you to have a teacher. Like, listen, I'm a wonderful teacher. I'm not everybody's teacher. You have to find someone who you feel comfortable with. I have a lot of light, and light shines on everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am like a samurai. I am a warrior. I chop things at the root. You can talk to some of my students. They can do high fives over here and they will tell you it is wonderful, but it is intense, and the heat in my kitchen is hot, and you're going to feel that. And because of that reason, I'm not everybody's teacher, because you have to be able to allow yourself to melt a little and be reshaped. And if you're holding on tight for dear life and you're not willing to transform and to see clearly yet, then when so much light comes at you, it's a little bit scary. And so this is kind of why I do these 5-day challenges, because it's a way for me to serve. There's hands going up right now. There's a way for me to serve and share in a like big picture kind of way, and you can just listen and take in what serves you and let go of what doesn't serve you. And yes, if you see the truth and you hear the truth in my voice, and you see the integrity with which I teach and speak and share and in everything I do, you might want to work with me. And yes, that's part of the reason that I do these too, because this is how I make a living, and I am so deeply grateful for all the students that support my journey. But I always give wholeheartedly in everything that I do, even if it's for free. So these challenges are a labor of love for me. This is why I only do them 3 times a year. I'll keep the replays on the units tab for a little while. So if you have any friends and family and you enjoyed what you are seeing, please invite them to the group and tell them about it. Anyway, so that's one of the questions that I wanted to address that someone asked about misunderstanding and how do I know if I'm misunderstood? Because your mind is spinning and your emotions are going crazy, and this is why you need help from someone to help you see clearly. Okay, so with all of that said, I want to start with the things to consider when you are looking what practice you need to do. And, there's many paths, Qigong, Tai Chi, every religion is basically a path. If you follow your religion, whether it is Christian or Jewish or Muslim or whatever it is, and you go through their teachings, That is a path, and a lot of the times, if you're religious, that is going to be your best guide and your best teacher or rabbi, a priest that you can go to for clarity. But today I'm going to focus on yoga and meditation. So we're going to talk, because that's my expertise. So if you want to talk about Qigong and Tai Chi, I actually know someone here in Utah. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. But I do have someone I can refer you to if you're interested in learning one of those two. I've tried them. They're not really my thing. So I love them, but it's not, they don't have the same effect on me as yoga does. And so I'm a yogi, and that's what I'll talk about. But even within the yoga path, there's so many branches and so many choices, and that I will give you some guidance on today, because I am very well versed and I will tell you exactly what to look for. And meditation. A lot of the times people get confused with so many meditation techniques, and I'm going to give you some pointers as of exactly what it is that you need to be looking for. So we'll talk about that in a second, but I want to talk first about what to take into account when you're considering a practice. The first thing you want to take into account is your lifestyle and whether you have an active or a sedentary lifestyle. So if you are a runner, a biker, if you go to the gym and work out and lift weights and you hike, 4 or 5 miles a weekend or whatever, your practice needs to be a little bit mellow. Your practice needs to balance all of that activity. And I'll get into more as of what that might look like for you in a second. If you, on the other hand, are not very active at all, and you don't do any exercise, and you don't really go out and walk in nature, your practice needs to actually balance that and move you. And that is also an important factor to consider. So your practice, your yoga practice might feel a little bit of exercise because that's your exercise for the week, and that's good. And that's okay. And that counts. And it doesn't make it right, wrong, better, or worse than the mellow, sleepy yoga practices. Okay? The other thing that you need to take into account is your age and your physical state. If you have any injuries, you want to practice that's very slow and mindful, especially if you have back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, back pain. You are looking for what's called Hatha yoga. Most of the time, that's what it's referred to. Now, there's a Hatha yoga, actually, it's a big umbrella. Everything that we do is technically Hatha yoga, but that's a little bit of more an advanced classification that we can get into in yoga teacher training, why those terms are not interchangeable. But for these intents and purposes, if you're looking at a schedule at a studio, online, or wherever you are, you're looking for Hatha yoga. That's spelled Hatha. And Hatha means sun and moon, and it's the bringing together of those two forces. It's a long story. I'm not going to go off track, but it usually moves slow, as opposed to a vinyasa flow yoga that has a lot of down dogs and flows, up dogs, chaturangas, push-ups, and things like that. That's going to be a more active practice. Okay, so you need to consider your age and your physical state. Now, you could be older and be in very good shape, or you could be very young and not be in such good shape. But if you're young, I still encourage you, because your body has more of a chance of getting adjusted rather quickly, actually, to whatever you choose to do with it. Once you hit a certain age, I'm going to be 41 next Monday. I don't know. And I think that's young, but I could tell you my body does not behave the way that I used to when I was in my 20s. So when I was in my 20s, I was doing hot yoga, like I shared on the first day, 5-6 times a week. I couldn't, that wouldn't be healthy for me first, it wouldn't support the energy work that I do. I would be too ungrounded. So that's another thing that you need to take into consideration, right? So at some point, because of the energy work that I started to do, I needed my system to become a lot more grounded so that I can help people transform all of the stuff that they need to transform. And so my practice had to change to a more centered quiet way. A lot of the times what happens is if you are very hyper, and you can wait until you're 50, someone said, I know. Well, a lot of the times what happens is, let's say that you're very young. Let's give you just some examples. Let's say that you're very young and you're very hyper and your mind can't sit still for the life of you and you're in really good shape. Then what's going to happen is if you go to a very mellow and slow yoga class, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be just bored. And when are we going to change this pose? And this is taking forever. And oh my God, this is just so annoying. And what am I going to do for dinner? And what am I going to... There's not enough of a challenge in order to keep you focused. On the other hand, if you don't have that strength, if you don't have that stamina, and you go to, and you're a little weak because you don't work out ever, and you show up to a vinyasa flow yoga class that's moving so fast, you're going to get hurt. Okay. So what you're looking for is you're looking for that happy medium. The class has to be challenging enough to keep you focused and mellow and slow enough to not get hurt. Okay. And that is why there's so many different yoga styles and so many different ways of practicing, because a good practice and a good teacher, and if you attend my classes, you will see sometimes I have 4, 5, 6 people, and I will be giving each of them a different modification because each of them needs to be practicing at a different level in order to get what they need. So some students I will see, they're in what's supposedly a difficult pose and they're not suffering enough. And I will give them a little modification to make it a little bit more challenging. And some students are struggling with what they have. And so I will give it another modification to take a step back. This is one of the things that you're looking for in a teacher. This is why I like live classes, because it allows me to see everyone on the screen and make modifications. If you're practicing at home and you're practicing with your videos, I want you to take that into account, because there's no teacher there to guide you and tell you, okay, take it up a notch or take it down a notch, right? Because they can't see you, it's a video. Then I want you to be your own teacher and be really darn honest with no ego whatsoever and say, okay, is this serving me? And is this challenging enough to keep me focused? Or am I pushing past my point of comfort and about to get hurt over here? And guys, if you are present and you're listening to your body and you're listening to your breath and you're paying attention to what you're doing, you should know. The problem is that a lot of times you are doing a video and then thinking of this and thinking of that, and you're not present. That's another beautiful thing about doing yoga live with a teacher. There's an energy transmission that a teacher does, kind of like teaching a kid I don't know if I gave you this example, I gave it in some other video the other day. I said it's like giving a kid a book and say, go ahead, read. Or if someone came to you and gave you a book in Chinese and said, go ahead, read. You're looking at the thing and you're like, I don't understand, right? But if a Chinese teacher comes and sits next to you and begins to, one sound at a time, one letter at a time, explain to you how this is to be read, then you will understand. That transmission can never, ever, ever be replaced. You cannot just learn a new language by reading. Even when you do, you need tapes and you need, someone speaking to you, even if it's in a recorded way, to download that transmission into your system. Why should yoga be different? Why should spirituality be different? You go to school for, I've had so many students tell me, because I a lot of the times work with very educated people, and they're like, oh my God, I went to school for 12 years, got PhDs and all of that, and nobody taught me what you're teaching me. Why not? Well, first of all, because they didn't know. Okay, if they had known, if your parents had known, they would have taught it to you, right? But the thing is, human consciousness is constantly evolving. So they weren't supposed to know. We know now, and whatever we do know, I'm sure that you're teaching it to your kids just because you know better. You're at a higher level of evolution and consciousness. And that's why getting together as a community and having a teacher and all of that is so helpful. So active or sedentary lifestyle. You also want to consider your, like, how your mind works and what resonates with you. So I am a very, I don't know, I guess explanatory teacher, right? So when I explain why we're doing it, how we're doing it, what to look for, blah, blah, blah. That's just how I teach. That's my personality. A lot of people find that super helpful. A lot of people, I'm like, oh, she's talking so much. She's so annoying. I don't want to know. I just want to do my yoga. And maybe they need a teacher who doesn't talk as much as me. I mean, I get on these things. I can talk for 60 minutes straight, nonstop, and barely have a drink of water. Like, I can talk a lot. And sometimes when I teach, even when I teach yoga or meditation, I like to explain why, because I like to understand. And I used to appreciate it when teachers told me why I was doing what I was doing. It made it so that it gave me a motivation to do it, and I felt confident in what I was doing, and I also felt confident in the teacher that they had a reason for doing the things that they were doing. Because if you've ever taken a yoga class, sometimes we have you do very silly things, and we have you do very silly things because it's actually, any good teacher is going to have a sense of humor, and it's going to have a lightness to the practice. One of my best teachers, his name was Rama. He was this 80-year-old man who used to teach a hatha yoga class at the studio where I first got my yoga teacher certification literally 12 years ago. And he would make us laugh the whole class. And he would have us in a pose, and he would just make it funny somehow. A good spiritual teacher will laugh a lot. Anybody who takes this too seriously doesn't quite get it yet. Okay, whether you're doing yoga, meditation, or anything else. So active or sedentary lifestyle, your method of learning. Do you like to know why you're doing what you're doing, or do you just prefer to be told what to do? You want to take into account your daily responsibilities and schedule and lifestyle, and you want this to be built into your life. So if you have a really busy household full of people, you need to get away and go to a studio, if possible. I know nowadays is a different time, but honestly, if you have kids screaming and dogs and cats and it's a nightmare at home, you need to get the heck out of there. You need to go to a studio, to a teacher somewhere else, or lock yourself in a room and tell everybody, put a sign at the door and say, this is yoga time. If you live alone and you have your space, then I actually suggest that you work at home, and either you do it online or why? Because when you go outside into studios full of people and you practice together, there's a positive thing if the teacher can hold the right space, but it could also be counterproductive, because one of the things that yoga does is it releases negative energies out of the system. And so whomever is leading the class needs to be super grounded and super neutral and be able to basically override whatever negative stuff is going to come out of whoever, so that it doesn't affect your practice in a negative way. The teacher has to have that much more light in order to manage a room. And I know, because I used to lead classes of like 50, 70 people all at the same time. Trust me, as a teacher, if you're not carrying enough light and you're trying to shift that many people at once, you're going down and they're not making progress. It's just a mishmash of energy flying all over the place. And what you think is this bliss and this enlightenment is really just adrenaline and cortisol running through your system. It's not really the peace that you're looking for. And sometimes people don't know the difference. They go to these big yoga classes, big retreats full of people. And if the teacher can't manage the energy, and trust me, there's very few of us who can, then sometimes it's not the best experience for you, and you might not even realize it. So one of the things that I learned to love when I started working online was that people could just work out of their own home, and they didn't have to mix energies with other people. Now, like I said, working from home with cats, dogs, kids, and everything else, it's not always practical. So if you need to get away, or if they're just triggering you too much, it's better to go to a separate place, because those people at least are not your immediate relatives and they're not triggering you as much. And then you get some space, you get out of the energy system. So if you have a very dysfunctional, and when I used to do hot yoga, I had a somewhat dysfunctional situation at home, and it was so helpful for me. Like, it doesn't matter what they were saying, what they were scared, I would just get in the car and drive away and go to yoga, and by the time I came back, everything was fine, right? So it depends. You have to be able to balance pros and cons. Okay, so that's in regards to the factors to consider. The best time to practice, we talked about this the other day. If you're a morning person, you need to be practicing in the morning. If you're an evening person, you need to be practicing in the evening. But whatever you do, it needs to be on your schedule, and it needs to be built into your life. And you literally need to look at your week every week and say, I'm going to practice at this time, if possible every day, even if it's just for 7 minutes. But then sometimes it's really nice to have a 1 hour practice or a 90-minute practice that's complete, right? Because there's only so much that you can do in 20 minutes. And we can't always do that every day. So you want to say, I'm going to go to class Monday night, Thursday morning, and Saturday. And you know in your mind, in your schedule, and everybody in the family knows, and you can put it on the refrigerator calendar, that this is when mama's going to yoga, or this is when whoever is going to go do their practice. And you literally need to schedule it. So the best time to practice is, it needs to be consistent if possible, and it needs to be scheduled. In theory, you're supposed to be practicing an hour a day, every day at the exact same time. But let's be real here. That's very unlikely to happen for a lot of us, especially at the beginning. I do it now, but it's taking me 20 years to make the space for that and reprioritize until I had that kind of space. At the beginning, I just went whenever I could, and that's fine. But you do need to put it on the schedule, and you need to make it as consistent as possible. And even if you don't make it consistent the same day, you need to make it consistent week to week. So you go to class Tuesday night and Thursday night, Tuesday night and Thursday night, and those become your your check-in points. Because even if you have a practice of your own, you still need to go outside and learn from a teacher. I'm sorry, that's just necessary, because they are holding a certain space for you. And like I said, it doesn't have to be me. I no longer hold public yoga classes, so this is not a pitch for that, because I choose to keep my classes with students. I used to, and for a little while, even in the last few months, I tried to open the classes to the public. It doesn't work for me. The vibration is too high. And so I only work with students who are committed for the 90 days. And so then what happens is we're growing together. Everybody's on the same vibration. When a new person comes in, we lift them up as a group, as opposed to kind of having to start from scratch each and every time a new student comes in, and getting new students every week, I never get to teach what I need to teach, because I keep teaching the same thing at the beginners, because I need to put in the foundations. When I work in blocks of 90 days, I can build foundations, and my students get into a little bit of rhythm, and I can kind of build onto those foundations. So then when somebody else comes in, they have an easier time kind of going up and catching up, because the collective consciousness is holding a vibration at a certain level. But you need to find, even if it's just a regular class at a studio, there's so many classes online right now that you could take. You need to get out of your comfort zone and listen to a live teacher whenever possible. Literally, there's a class 24 hours a day everywhere, because you can get them streamed now anywhere from the world. So there's no excuse for you to not do that. And you just need to find a teacher that resonates with you. Okay, so that's the best time to practice. The other thing that I have here is that it needs to be tracked. And you need to, just like you schedule it for the future, you also need to be keeping track of how often you practice, so that you can see how much you have, quote unquote, achieved, and how much, quote unquote, progress you're making. I have another video Kim founded on the Facebook group about how to measure progress. And I won't get into all of that exactly right now, but one of the things that could be helpful for the mind to see progress is the simple fact of observing how many times a week you get your personal daily practice done and how many times a week you get your learning done. Okay, because you need to be learning, you need to be absorbing, you need somebody to constantly uplift you. And here's the other thing. Ideally, your teacher needs to be the same teacher again and again and again. This jumping from one teacher to another teacher, to one method to another method, to this video to that video. Listen, even if you're learning from videos, find a teacher whose videos you like and stick with that. My yoga videos are not the best quality because I don't have the patience to do the freaking editing and the cutting and the corrections and all of that. But there's a lot of yoga teachers who put out really good videos, and I tried to them and I'm like, man, this is like not so easy. Maybe they have video editing people and I was an amateur trying to do it myself. So I have some stuff on YouTube and it's kind of all right, but there is so many good apps and things out there. There's an app called Down Dog, I think it is. Lizette recommends an app called Eckhart Yoga. And you wanna, even if it's through videos, listen to the same teacher again and again and again for at least a little while. Give them 21 days, give them 30 days at a minimum. You will see what a huge difference it makes. Every program that I've taken and every lineage that I've studied, I've always kind of stuck with the same teacher for that lineage. I did a younger training, Sharon. I love her. I haven't talked to her in years. I found her and I was like, that's it. Teach me everything I need to know. And I studied with her week in and week out for a whole 3 years to learn proper alignment in yoga poses. Same thing when I did recently, I've been studying Kundalini, and I just put that new Kundalini class on the schedule on Monday nights for my 90-day Awakening Empowerment people, participants. And I've been studying with the same teacher. Her name is Karina, and she's wonderful too. And I am so deeply grateful. And as a teacher, I appreciate that consistency. So whoever you choose. So here's an example. Here I am 20 years later. 6 months ago, I wanted to learn something new. I found a teacher and I've been studying with that teacher ever since for like, I don't know, at least 4 or 6 months. I would have to think that I've been consistently. Okay, because I practice what I preach and I never stop learning, and I don't think I know it all. And as clearly as I see, it is always helpful to get out of my comfort zone and learn something new. And I know that I need somebody to teach me. I'm not going to pretend that just because I'm a teacher with 20 years of experience, I can start watching Kundalini videos and I'm going to learn from there. The energy transmission is missing. It's not possible. I'll learn maybe the knowledge, but I won't have the transformation that I need energetically because teachers hold a certain vibration. So keep track because it helps you keep motivated, and a teacher also helps you stay motivated. Okay. And then before I jump into all of the different styles of yoga and go into a little more detail of that, the last question on your workbook is your practice must be, and I want you to write this down, systematic. Okay, it has to make sense. It has to have a reason and a purpose for being done the way that it's being done. It must be consistent. I think I've drilled that one enough. I think if you get anything away from this whole 5 days is your practice must be consistent. And here's one you might not expect. It must be enjoyable. You must love it. You must look forward to it. This is not torture. If you find a practice that, now I'm not saying it's going to be comfortable all the time. I'm just saying you have to enjoy it, and you have to enjoy being out of your comfort zone a little. And it can't be torture, and it can't be something that you dread doing. This is why I don't like the gym. Just for the record, this is why I'm a yogi, because it's enjoyable. I remember once walking into a gym and going to one of those spin classes, and I'm on the bike, and this instructor is yelling at me like, give it to me, give me more, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, why are you yelling at me? Stop that. Right? I was not having fun. Bike spinning is not for me. right? And that's another thing, that teacher keeps the practice fun and it keeps you engaged. They should inspire you. They should make you want to practice, and they should make you so that you look forward to class. Okay, I'll stop here for a second. I'm going to go into the different styles of yoga, the different styles of meditation, but I want to take a second to read all of these comments, because I've learned to stay focused on what I'm saying. Otherwise, I get scatterbrained trying to catch up with everything that everyone is saying. That was totally me when I'm a kid. Yes, practicing and doing all sorts of different things. What makes a yoga practice and a mindfulness practice? I have been told that not all yoga is mindful. Yes, not all yoga is mindful, because it depends on the vibration that the teacher is holding, and you will get out of the practice what you put into it and what you approach it with. So a lot of the times my students, actually, I was doing an interview with Lizette, who teaches, the other day, and she was saying how, a friend of hers just graduated from yoga teacher training, and something is kind of just missing a little bit. And yeah, it's missing sequencing, it's missing, proper warm-ups and proper cool downs. But what's really, really missing, it's that sacredness with which we approach the practice. This is a sacred practice. And unfortunately, nowadays, I don't know, maybe because people are ashamed or embarrassed to use terms such as sacred and God and divine energy. Like, honestly, sometimes even in yoga teacher training, they would kind of discourage me a little bit from using that, because, you don't want to freak people out. I'm like, I don't care if I freak people out. People need to wake the heck up and realize that this is no joke. It needs to be respected. It needs to be approached with humbleness and gratitude, because your practice is what is going to drive everything else in your life, at home and at work. So yes, not all yoga is mindful, but it's not because of the yoga. It's because the teachers are not holding the right sacred space. That's why I like doing yoga with you. I'm wonderful, whoever you are, because you see, I can't see your face if you don't put your name, but yes, I'm glad you do. Would you share the benefits of yoga? Like you said, it releases negative energy out of the system compared to, say, Pilates. Yeah, and the reason that it does is because we do a lot of breathing. Yoga also focuses on opening the energy pathways and kind of expanding. You put the body in all of these different positions against gravity. From a physical perspective alone, that is very healing. And if you talk to a physical therapist, and I've talked to a few, they will explain to you why yoga is so healing for back pain, neck pain, and all of that, because we use the whole body as opposed to a lot of movement isolation. So that's one of the reasons that it's healing on a physical level. The breath work combined with the movement helps to open up the energy channels and releases negative energies out of the system. The fact that we are being mindful, if the teacher is guiding you properly and encouraging you to feel, ooh, this is one of my favorite benefits of yoga. Remember how yesterday we talked about the importance of feeling from a neutral place and not judging your feelings and just allowing yourself to feel what you feel. Well, yoga, it allows you to do just that, because if you are holding your arms up like this for long enough, at some point, they're gonna hurt. But it's just a yoga pose and it's just your arms. And if you continue to breathe and you observe and you see what you can relax the muscles a little bit, or you can activate the muscles a little more, it can give you so much introspection from a neutral place. When you do that in your physical body, now you're able to do that with your feelings, with your thoughts, with your coworkers, with your partners. You can see what's happening, you can feel what's happening, you can observe what's happening, and you remain in that center. So that is what I would say is the main benefit of yoga. Okay, so with all of that said, I'm doing good. I have about 10 minutes to go according to my goal of keeping these under like 40, 45 minutes. and I want to get into the different styles of yoga, and I'm going to go through them rather quickly because it's something that you have to experience, and there's only so much that I could explain. But I'm also going to go through the different types of meditation, and that I really do want to do a little bit of more in-depth explanation on, so that you know what could work and what doesn't and what to look for. Okay. Oh, it was Deborah. Okay. Who said that she likes to do yoga with me. Okay. Let's see. So first we talked about Hatha yoga, and there's different styles of Hatha yoga, and don't get scared by the Sanskrit names, but if you recognize them and in a schedule, it might be helpful for you. There's Shivananda yoga, and they do the sun salutations, and they're very gentle, and then they have a specific sequence that they follow. It has certain modifications as you go from day to day, but the structure is basically the same. You have integral yoga, which is very similar. They both come from the same kind of like trunk. And those are the two lineages that are often referred to as classical Hatha yoga. And they are very mindful. They both include a lot of breathing techniques and pranayama and meditation and deep relaxation. And a holistic yoga class should have that. It should have a little meditation at the beginning, enough for you to settle down. And it should have a deep relaxation at the end for at least 7 to 11 minutes. And then the poses are just one part of it. A lot of the times what happens when you go to gyms or hot yoga studios or something, they just do the one part. They just jump right into the practice, and they don't take time at the beginning to settle in and at the end to do proper relaxation. The next style is vinyasa, which is what I was talking about, where you kind of just flow from pose to pose. These are very creative sequences. You're using the whole body to move from pose to pose. You don't hold the poses for a long time. And this is the kind of style that's very popular out there, even though, honestly, I would say 70% of the population should not be doing that. Okay. And so it's very popular and people do it. And then they're like, oh my God, yoga's so hard. Like I got myself hurt, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, because that was the wrong type of yoga for your age, your body, your lifestyle. But it is the most popular yoga out there, probably because a lot of young people are doing yoga nowadays, and that is the appropriate yoga for them. I did that for years when I was in my 30s. And a lot of the times they'll have music playing. A lot of the times, like Western conventional radio music playing, not radio, but like, you know, pop and rock and all of that stuff. I went through that phase too. I did that for a little while. I don't do that anymore. My classes are now silent. I play some Kundalini, some devotional musics. And in Kundalini yoga, I definitely do play music, but that's because that lineage does that. And it's specific Kundalini music that has a specific vibration and a specific mantra and a specific rhythm and frequency that it's meant to invoke from within you. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So Kundalini yoga, you'll often see them dressed in white with their head wrap. And some of the students who might not have seen me on a head wrap, you might see me on a head wrap on Monday. And they do that because we do a lot of energy work and a lot of breath work. And sometimes the movements are very fast. And so they wrap their head to keep it from just getting ungrounded, which, you know, once I understood that, I'm like, that makes so much sense. And if you put in the head wrap, you will see it does have an effect on helping you quiet the mind, especially when the practice is so active and so ungrounding at times and you're moving so much energy. So Kundalini will have a lot of breath work, devotional music, not just regular music, but real Kundalini music. And it has a specific format. So we have a manual that we follow, and we need to teach it in that specific way. And it should never be mixed with anything else. And if you are going to something that's like a Kundalini mixed with something else class, they don't know what they're doing, because it shouldn't be mixed. Some of the other lineages in Hatha yoga, you can find decent combinations of it. And I actually personally mix a lot of it and take the parts of one lineage and parts of the other lineage that I found helpful. And that's also why my classes feel so good, because it's very intuitive and very intelligent and very purposeful. And I have just so many tools in my toolbox to get to where I need to go. And also because I'm an energy healer, right? So I'm a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher and energy healer. And so when I do yoga, it's not just the physical stuff. I am intentionally and very consciously, and just by being in my presence, energy is shifting. And the other two styles that I want to talk about on yoga, it's something that's called yin and restorative. Now, in yoga teacher training, we go through exactly what the difference is between those two, but there's a lot of confusion out in the world as of what that is supposed to be. So for these purposes, just like you have hatha yoga in one box, even though it includes many things, we're going to put yin yoga and restorative yoga in one box. And that is a practice where you go and maybe they're using bolsters or blocks, or maybe they're not, but they keep you close to the ground and kind of just laying down and resting. They put you in a pose, and depending on what exactly you're learning, you are there from somewhere between 3 minutes to up to 7 minutes to, if you're doing restorative, up to like 12, 15 minutes per pose. And so in a 60-minute class, you might do 5 poses if done properly. There's, restorative teachers who put in 15 poses in one class. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not restorative. That's just prop moving and having fun with the props. And it's good, it feels good, but it's not the original intention of restorative yoga, in where poses need to be held for at least 5 minutes if you're doing something that is a little bit uncomfortable, and up to like 20 minutes per pose. And so then you have hot yoga. And hot yoga used to be its own thing. And of course, Americans like to do whatever the heck they want. So now everything is hot because they just like the heat. Don't even get me started. I used to do it, so I have nothing to say about this, except once you learn better and you stop misunderstanding and you get to the other side, you need to be able to let go and evolve and still love and respect everything that hot yoga gave me. But when I was doing hot yoga, it was the real original Bikram hot yoga. The problem now is they're doing everything in a hot room and calling it hot yoga, and that's not what it was meant to be. So they're mixing different lineages and putting them all in a hot room. So not just because it's hot doesn't mean that it should be hot, because chances are they're not doing it the original way. There's still a few studios that do it the original way, and the original hot yoga practice is good. It's a hatha yoga practice at its core. It's structured in blocks of back bends and forward bends and twists, and it has a specific sequence, and it's the same sequence every time, so it's very intelligent, and it feels really good. The problem is now they've taken all of this vinyasa yoga, flow yoga. They even do yin yoga inside of a hot room, when that's not ever what it was meant to be. And I have reasons as to why that's not ideal, doing yin yoga in a hot room, but that's not for today, because I want to get to the meditation techniques. So I want to classify your meditation techniques into 3 categories. Number 1 is counting. And counting is very good if your mind likes to have a goal to get to, and if you tend to get distracted a lot. So it could be inhale 1, exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 4. And you count, let's say, up to 10. And when you get to 10, you begin at 1. And if you get to 10 and the mind wanders away, if you get to 7 and the mind wanders away, then you begin at 1 again, just to train the mind to start at the beginning and stay focused. That's a very good technique. It's a very popular technique. The other one is a mantra. And there's 2 mantras that I like. The mantra needs to be simple. A lot of times people confuse affirmations with mantras. And, they will make this whole long thing that they have to say in their head each time they breathe in and each time they breathe out. And so then what happens is too many words. Each word has an association, and then the mind just goes down and gets distracted because there's too many words. So a mantra should be something simple. Like, for example, as I breathe in, I know that I am breathing in. As I breathe out, I know that I am breathing out. Yeah, that's a lot of words, but it's focused here and now. And you can shorten it to just say in and out, in and out. Now, a lot of the times, once you get into that rhythm, it could be that you're doing in and out, and then at the same time, you're having some thoughts and you think you're still focused, but you're not, which is why I like the counting. The counting, you're more likely to catch yourself if you lose track of what you're doing and if you get distracted. So either one is fine. Those are the two that I invite you to try. There is a lot of others, and if these two don't work for you, you can listen to recorded visualization techniques. I can never say that without stumbling. And a teacher will either guide you through a body scan, having you feel the different parts of the body, or visualizing different images, mountains and light and different images that come, and imagine this beautiful energy expanding from your heart. That is a beautiful, acceptable way to practice. It just doesn't make it's not ideal for a consistent day-to-day practice. I use those a lot when I teach and I lead a class. I use a lot of those techniques. But for your personal practice, you want it to be simple. And when you give the mind too many things to imagine, too many things to focus on, too many, affirmations to think about, then it's very likely that the mind will kind of go out on its own, because the purpose of so-called meditation, it's actually not really meditation. Meditation cannot be taught or practiced. What you could practice is you can practice concentration. You can teach your mind to focus. And in order to teach your mind to focus, you need to keep it simple. And that's why I like the counting or the simple mantra: in, out. As I breathe in, I know that I am breathing in. As I breathe out, I know that I am breathing out. Because it makes it so that the mind has one of those two things to focus on, and that's it. And if it runs away, you will know it. Where if you're doing visualization techniques, or if you're doing, too many affirmations in your meditation, each day that's going to trigger more thoughts, more memory, more imagination, and it keeps your mind more active. So the goal is really to teach the mind to focus, and that's why you want to keep it simple. So that is my little session for today. Tomorrow's the last day. We talk about the obstacles that you're going to encounter, how to overcome them, and how to know if you're making progress in the spiritual path. Everything you need to know, all the reminders and summaries of all of this is posted in the Units tab in the Facebook group. Please invite your friends and share and like. And don't forget to sign up for the workshop on Saturday. This Saturday, I'm only doing that. I think I'm going to do that maybe every other month. So it's not going to come up for a while. You don't want to miss it. And if you can't make it on Saturday and you are interested in working with me, please make sure that you book a call with us. Either I or Lizette will get on the line with you and go through a quick interview. And we've opened up a few spots in our calendar specifically for this and for challenge participants for next week. And during that call, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of clarity. You're going to get so much clarity as of exactly where the monkey wrench is and what you need to be doing to fix it. And if you like what we have to offer, then you might want to work with us, and we appreciate that too. What time on Saturday, Tammy? It's 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's $47 for guests. And what else do you need to know about that workshop? You can sign up right online and you get a Zoom link. If you've done the vision board workshop with me, it's going to be similar to that, except we're not going to do vision boards because it's just too much to manage online. It's not going to be productive. So I have a really special format that I'm going to follow, and I'm super, super excited about it. But you will learn how to do a vision board, and I will go over that, and you will have it as homework to create your own, and I will give you all the guidelines that you need to have in order to create a vision board that actually freaking works. Because a lot of the times people don't know how to manifest. They're looking externally. They're not, listen, everything that your heart desires, it's already there. You just need to get the heck out of your own way. So we're going to get out of our own way on Saturday. That's the whole purpose of the workshop. And so thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Namaste. Say bye-bye as you log off. Bye, Lori. Thank you. Thanks for watching.